Hey everyone, Ro here. Well, chapter 3 of the Book of Boba Fett has arrived, and well, I really wanted to talk about my thoughts. So let's waste no time and just jump straight in. So, I only managed to check out chapter 2 in depth a day or so before chapter 3 dropped, so I decided to save my thoughts to talk about after chapter 3. And man, what a couple of contrasting episodes they were. First of all, just to cover chapter 2, man, that episode did a lot right. We had the developing plot of just who sent the assassins, the beginning of the rivalry between Boba and the mayor, only then for the Hutts to arrive to boot. It really felt like this crime lord plotline was beginning to heat up nicely. Again, as I mentioned before, I'm new to the Disney canon lore outside the movies. So I didn't know who Chrysanthemum was other than an awesome badass looking Wookiee. But even as an unknowing fan, his execution and introduction was done well enough for me to know that he was an important character. The subtleties in their brief interaction established the history of Boba Fett enough for me to grasp and want to learn more. And a quick jump onto YouTube after I finished watching it pretty much gave me everything I wanted to know. But then again, that was it, and back to the past we went. And look, as it turned out, the episode was absolutely beautiful. However, I have to admit I was frustrated again to spend so little time on Boba's current situation as a crime lord, especially as it felt it was just starting to get interesting. However, again, the whole Memories with the Tuskens was just more great storytelling and filmmaking. So much communicated by the Sand People and Boba without even needing subtitles. By the end of the episode and Boba's true acceptance into the tribe, with the beautifully done tribal dance, I was just sitting there smiling at how they've introduced and developed this relationship. All before my very eyes without the need of drumming narrations or dialogue into us. It's a very human and instinctual story, and I really feel the creators deserve credit for that. It's a highlight of Star Wars at Star Wars is best for me, the heartbeat of the story beneath all the theatrics. The one feeling I couldn't shake at the end of the episode, however, was why would Boba leave when he seems so content here? Boy, I was hoping that something didn't happen to the tribe further down the line. And then of course yesterday came chapter 3. And man, what a mixed bag that was. Now we kicked off in the present crime lord story, and like I said, I was really ready for this. So hoping we didn't get a fleeting 10 minutes or so then back straight into the flashbacks. And as it turned out, my wishes were granted. Unfortunately, I think it turned out into a little bit of be careful what you wish for. Obviously, we began with the trader coming to Boba, complaining about the anarchy on the streets and the lack of respect that he has got. And this for me really had me beginning to wonder just how the wider fan base are going to eventually react to more of this cult character. Boba Fett used to be so mysterious, but now before our very eyes he's becoming laid bare. For me here, I understand Boba's desire to rule through respect rather than with fear. But I don't know if it was the acting or the script work, but it just felt like this trader was being pretty disrespectful in the way he was talking to Boba. And it just felt like to me that Boba's being way too lenient about this from people. I know it's a tricky balance to strike with Boba essentially being the anti-hero good guy, but in a theme here that would go on throughout the episode, I was just wishing for Boba to just once do something a little forceful. Just be a little intimidating, but it just continued to feel way too passive. Now straight from there we cut to Boba stalking through the streets of Mos Espa at night, and instantly I felt like, oh snap, here we go, Boba means business. Now we're going to see that bounty hunter of old. However, unfortunately, it all went horribly wrong the second the biker gang were introduced. Now, first off, it's probably a real personal thing for me, but our lovely British accents as they are really have to be used in the right way on characters for me, or they just sound terrible. Maybe it's because obviously I am a Brit. I dunno, but the second those gangers opened their mouths, any remote attempt at intimidation went right out the window. Again, maybe it's just the accent that I have myself, so it just takes away any of the magic. I don't know what it is, but it was bad enough that they didn't look in any way, shape or form intimidating, but then combined with their voices and portrayal, it just wasn't good. And it probably was made even worse next to Boba's deep, gravelly voice, which just invokes a sense of strength. It absolutely breaks my heart to say it, because I've been nothing but high up on the Book of Boba Fett so far, but I've got to say the casting, the acting, everything about this gang of bikers was just really, really bad. Internally, I was just screaming in this scene for Boba to just obliterate this pathetic looking gang. But again, he didn't. And I'm starting to worry that rather than an intimidating crime lord, Boba's looking just way too passive. At the end of the day, do you respect a crime lord who never acts in the face of disrespect? At some point, strength has to be displayed. I understand there's the story of Boba's changing character arc here, but really for the first time in this season, I was disappointed, and the title hadn't even rolled yet for Chapter 3. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, not only did Boba recruit this gang, meaning they were going to be sticking around, but they then got on a bunch of multicoloured looking speeders. It was only a split second, but man did it make it look even worse. They just stuck out against the Tatooine night like a sore thumb. As I've said, I'm new to this new Disney-wide canon, so maybe I'm not grasping the wider lore implications that are out there. However, one thing I can say that I'm pretty good at is grasping characters, and this introduction and portrayal was unfortunately pretty bad in my opinion. Now, after this introduction, we went back to the memories again, and thankfully business really picked up with the waves of Kamino. There's just something about seeing those bleak, rough, rain-falling waves that makes me feel like something big's about to happen. Maybe it's because it draws you back to the prequels, but it's something resonates really well. And as soon as that drew me up, my heart sank once again, but this time for the right reasons, as we saw the tribe of Tuskens, as I had been fearing at the end of Chapter 2, had been wiped out. Now, one part of me expects Boba to go on the warpath of vengeance. However, again, this isn't the Boba we've been seeing thus far. So are we instead going to have a Boba who feels responsible for their deaths? This could be an interesting dynamic going forward, and one that I'm really looking forward to seeing play out. Now, from there, my wishes from the previous chapter were granted, in that we shifted straight back to Boba's time as the crime lord. And in what was maybe the best few seconds of the episode for me, with Boba being ambushed by Chrysanthemum, ripping him out of the Bacta tank, it was really well done within the darkness. Boba struggling against this gigantic Wookiee. I know he's a character in the lore, so Boba couldn't have killed him, but just seeing Boba struggling and defiantly getting some kind of win here would have really built up Boba's character for me, slamming back in that aspect of strength. However, again, unfortunately, it was to be short-lived, as in came the most unintimidating crew once again to save the day. Honestly, Chrysanthemum should have been able to solo all of them. But ultimately it wasn't to be, and we saw him being imprisoned within the Rancor pit. And in speaking of Rancors, we saw Boba bonding with the gifted Rancor from the twins. And in itself again, this was a nice scene. Obviously with him wanting to ride it, you know there's some kind of awesome scene coming down the line where we will see just that. And I have to say that it was surprising for the twins to be making such a quick exit after only being introduced the episode before. We're going to have to see how this one plays out and if they can truly be trusted, because otherwise it is a surprising early exit for them. After that, we moved on to the big scene of the episode with the street chase, which again to me somehow Boba's bikers looked even worse in the daylight. I really don't want to keep drumming onto the aspect of this because I so want to keep enjoying this series. I mean, would you really fear a bunch of kids on brightly coloured scooters? No, me either. And yet here these are supposed to be Boba's intimidation. It just doesn't work for me at all. Honestly, I would have done away with them and had Boba recruit Chrysanthemum instead. He alone looks way more dangerous than the entire gang put together. While this whole chase did have some exciting elements, and you can overlook the odd CGI wobble, again unfortunately it was just all overridden to me by these ridiculous brightly coloured scooters that just ruined the entire scene. Right at the end of the scene you've got Boba jetpacking down, and again all I could instantly wish was why couldn't we have just had Boba chasing the speeder using his jetpack, trying to shoot the fuel tank with his blaster or trying to take him out with his rockets, something a little bit more impactful. I don't know. I don't want to be too down on this chapter because overall I'm still very much enjoying the series. Aside from this introduction of the terrible biker gang, the development with the Pikes and actually focusing on Boba's crime lord storyline is really addressing the only concern I had from the first two chapters. And this chapter itself did have some good moments and ideas. But overall, despite me having been wishing to see more of Boba as the crime lord, I have to be honest, it's left me with fears that I definitely didn't have before this chapter. The one-time menacing Boba Fett of The Empire Strikes Back is really losing his intimidation factor for me at the moment. I guess to sum chapter 3 up, it had some good ideas in principle, but unfortunately was let down by its execution. Here's hoping chapter 4 returns us to the heights of chapters 1 and 2. For me, I'm hoping for a real focused on Boba chapter. Or better yet, focus onto Fennec, a great character in her own right, who was so underutilized in this episode. Let's see more of the badass Fennec, a true powerful female character in her own right, and less of these British scooter brightly coloured scooter gang. Hopefully I don't sound too down on it because again overall it was a nice watch. It's just a shame I've gone down from absolutely loving chapters 1 and 2 to just kind of enjoying chapter 3. However, as always guys, what do you think? Did you enjoy chapter 3? And for that matter, did you enjoy chapter 2? Was you as high up on chapter 2 as me? And are you as disappointed in chapter 3 as me too? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. But with that said, I am off and I'll see you all again real soon.